When we attacked your planet, all your soldiers and all their advanced technology could only put up a measly 9-minute fight before they were exterminated. Which is why man is an endangered species.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Hello, hello, all you gigalos. Welcome to Garbage In, Garbage Out. I am your host, as always, Kelton, and I am joined this week by Grift. How's it going, sir?
It's good. Just to get myself in the state of mind to dissect this, just one of the worst pieces of media I've ever seen. I am currently drinking one of the worst drinks I've ever had before. Bud Light released this fall flannel seltzer pack, and they these are the worst drinks you could ever imagine. So I currently just popped open a toasted marshmallow flavored seltzer just to get
you brought this entirely on yourself.
Just to get myself. You gotta get your mind right. You gotta get in the right framework to just go in on the garbage. So I am.
And what a framework we have to be in.
Yeah.
Joining us though as guest this week, it is Brian from The Illegal Screen. How is it going, sir?
Hey, thank you for having me, Kelton and Grift. It's a pleasure to be here. I did as requested and checked my thetan levels before we started recording.
It's important.
So they're doing well, by the way, if you guys are concerned.
I know that's something we're supposed to keep in mind. If you think you have COVID, make sure you check your oxygen levels. Make sure you're above 95% or whatever. Yeah, check your thetan levels while watching this movie, while watching Battlefield Earth. And if you feel a rise, exactly, that's how you know you're a chosen one. That's what's going on here. This week, of course, as you all could probably tell from the title, we are covering Battlefield Earth. It is certainly a movie, and it came out in 2000. It stars John Travolta, Barry Pepper, Forrest Whitaker. It's a sci-fi film. The basic premise of which is that in the year 3000, man has been no match for these alien invaders called the Cyclos, who are a greedy, manipulative race of aliens who are on a quest for ultimate profit. Very easy, not at all on the nose symbolism there. Led by the powerful Turl. This is what the synopsis says. Even though I don't think Turl was actually shown to be that powerful ultimately.
No, actually not at all.
It's fine. It's fine. The Cyclos, they're stripping Earth of its natural resources. Actually gold, not natural resources even, really. They're just mining, but it's fine.
Is it ever explained why they need the gold?
No, it's not, because gold is important, and
it's gold.
Yeah, of course,
everyone needs it.
Yeah,
you think, they need it for technology because gold's used sometimes in wires and shit like that, or something because it's used as a fuel source or something. No, you don't even get that.
Absolutely not.
Maybe they're still in the gold standard. They haven't moved to fiat currency yet. They're just trying to balance their books.
Actually, it's called fiat currency. Grift is what it is with Scientology. So the human race, which has been essentially bombed back into the Stone Age, has now decided that they are going to rise up with the help of their fearless leader. And so it's up to Johnny, this guy named Johnny Tyler, to try and save the whole human race and lead the revolution, become the special boy. That's the premise. I'm sorry. Normally I try and slam out these premises and no issue with no commentary, but goddamn this movie. Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. What did y'all think about it? Let's just start it off. Grift?
This was so bad that you couldn't even enjoy it on the so bad it's good level. Coming off The Man with the Iron Fist, that was a bad movie, but you could buy into it and get down with the cheesy premise.
You could respect it, at least. Yeah,
you could turn your brain off and just have a good time. This was just baffling on every level.
Truly.
It was basically a ripoff of every single, major sci-fi story of the past 50 years, and the amount of inscrutable discussions of alien bureaucratic political machinations combined with just that none of it was explained, and none of it
was this a trend, by the way, in the late 90s, early 2000s? Like, did people think we cared about alien bureaucracy?
Honestly, I think that was with the first Attack of the Clones, the first Star Wars film and the new
Phantom
trilogy
Menace.
that was made,
Yeah.
Phantom Menace. Thank you. When that came out and people had complained about kind of like the politics of it, so to speak, not the politics of the film itself. I mean, the literal political bureaucracy that's displayed in the film.
Yeah.
I think what writers were doing at the time is they thought if we showed that they have these same political disputes that we do, people will think this is a smart film. It will somehow be taken more seriously. It's not going to be considered pulpy or like stupid. It's going to be taken as a serious work. I think that was the angle of approach.
I will never complain about how George Lucas now brings up politics in The Phantom Menace after watching this. Because he actually did it kind of okay, I guess, comparatively.
Comparatively for sure.
This is how it could have also turned out. Like, oh fuck.
I mean, it's interesting. Like looking back in retrospect at the politics of the prequel trilogy, it actually tells a good, relevant story in retrospect. Like especially compared to the sanitized Disney sequels, which they're just retreating the same sort of sweeping themes of the originals. They don't really have anything cogent to say about our political state, but like the prequels actually, like obviously they're cheesy, terrible acting, green screens all over the place, but it actually particularly coming out while the whole war on terror was ramping up, the whole metaphor of a shadowy leader working behind the scenes to start a war for just to gain ultimate power, like that's it kind of actually had something to say.
And it was crazy because he wrote it thinking about Vietnam, and then how it was actually still applicable basically in real time as the movies were coming out. It's pretty weird how it's like poetry, it rhymes. Right? That's the famous line. I don't know. Brian, what about you?
So, oh man, I have a lot to say about this fucking movie. So the first time I saw it was probably had to have been close to when it came out on home video, because I'm almost positive my parents rented this from like the video store, and I remember watching on like VHS. I swear to God. And even I thought it was bad as a kid. And if kids think a movie's bad, it's a pretty good barometer that the movie's bad. And then I revisited it again. This is the third time I've seen this film.
Whoa.
I know.
No.
I know. I revisited it again when I was in college because it was just like, again, the epic bad movies you have to see.
Yes.
And of course, people were kind of spinning it as it's actually kind of funny and it's actually kind of good bad. And
who are these people? Who hurt you?
Yeah, they need to be.
Or are these the people that are like, I'm going to join an improv troupe because I'm so quirky?
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
The same kind of.
God.
Life has not been kind to them already.
It's sad to know because they're also probably happier in life than I will ever be. But
yes,
God damn it.
Yet
I can't imagine.
Yet another reason we need to issue a fatwa on theater kids.
Yes, inshallah. Yeah. It's so funny because I went back and I did some digging after watching again, and it was on. This is from the Washington Post in 1999 by Richard Leiby, who's a staff writer. That was basically his whole article is like, this is a stealth Scientology film. There's no way around it.
It's just based on a book by L. Ron Hubbard. Come on.
Right. What? And it's funny because the whole media press circuit at the time was just Travolta insisting it wasn't. Everybody saying it has nothing to do with Scientology. It's just a great science fiction story. I think that's the thing that pisses me off now is just how utterly transparent it is about its message and its intent. And it's so on the nose, like you guys said already. The slang they invented, the skull bone thing, that just fucking pisses me off. Everything about this movie fucking pisses me off.
But that's just our opinion as man animals.
Yeah.
Yes, as man animals. Yeah.
Yeah.
John Travolta's character, Turl, the daughter fucker in chief, who's literally on the planet because he screwed the senator's daughter.
Yeah, he's not smart, by the way. Like he's a fail son. He's a fail son. Like he's like, my family conquered galaxies, and I am stuck on this remote post, which you're bad at, by the way, dude.
He gets outsmarted by his like half-wit protege.
It's just so frustrating. I mean, it's hard for me to sum up, to make it short, because I'm already going all over the place. To make it short, I cannot sum up how much this film frustrates me, and I can't sum up how much its legacy frustrates me in equal measure.
Because it has a legacy, and that's the thing that is like the most head fuck about all of this, is that it does. Because, you know, like, if I had to be objective about this movie, for me at least, I wouldn't call this like the worst film ever made, but I think it's probably the worst executed film I've ever seen. In the sense of like what the raw material was of, yeah, it's got kind of pulpy sci-fi book by a guy who was very trope filled and is kind of a loony bin type person, but has his own fan base, has his own kind of aesthetic and shtick, but to incorporate Dutch angles, colored lenses, blatant, you know, Star Wars style star wipes,
the fucking
and all
wipes.
of that.
Sorry to interrupt, but just like, how easy would it to be to edit those to happen just a second after the scene ends? Like, they did it every fucking time. There was no...
Or to incorporate it. Like, for example, if you were to be doing a star wipe from left to right, and then you're watching a character into a room also from left to right at the same time, that would work. It does not work when you're doing star wipe left to right. It shows what the scene is for half a second, then people enter the room. It's just... What is this dinner theater approach that's taking place? It's just an awful script, awful acting, just ugly designs across the board that make this
hideous movie.
I mean, it's so disappointing too. And I want to get into some behind the scenes before we go into the actual recap of it. But as we all kind of mentioned, and people should be aware, Battlefield Earth was originally published in 1982. It's a sci-fi book by L. Ron Hubbard. And the Church of Scientology originally wanted to make like a campy micro-budget version of this film, that they wanted to keep everything in-house. And then L. Ron Hubbard died. And then John Travolta, who had been basically with the church since about 1975 or so, and he's coming off the heels of Pulp Fiction, and he says, like, I want to now take control of this movie. I want to make this something a little bit more like Star Wars and New Hope. And in fact, the director of this movie is the person who was the art director for Star Wars and New Hope and for Alien. The person that's won an Academy Award for art design. And well, I mean, we're gonna get into the how in just a little bit, so don't worry, y'all. But this director was actually recommended to John Travolta by George Lucas. Like, this was, you know, on paper, art design guy who did New Hope and Alien is recommended by George Lucas to be the director. Sure, why not, right? If you're John Travolta, it kind of makes sense. However, as the script got passed around, it eventually landed in Tom Cruise's lap, who read it and then was begging John Travolta to not make the film. And then John Travolta basically won a power struggle with Tom Cruise using Scientology, meaning I genuinely think that this is the nexus point that made Tom Cruise go full bore into Scientology, so he will never lose a power struggle with anyone ever again. Like, I think that this is what led for him to have a desire to now be like the number 3 person in the entire church.
Top 10 anime battles. I had no idea that occurred.
Yeah, it's wild for me to think about. But eventually, though, this movie did get made, of course, but it was primarily through a studio called Franchise Pictures, which their whole business model was find scripts that were kind of put on the back burner but were the pet projects of A-list Hollywood celebrities, and then offer to make a full set of movies. And I say set because then they would package these movies together and then sell them to larger distributors. And basically say, like, hey, if you want the next like Wesley Snipes movie and Bruce Willis movie, you also have to, you know, distribute this John Travolta movie as well. And so that's kind of how it worked. This movie only made like 30-something million at the box office. It bombed so hard, y'all, that it made the FBI decide to poke into the business affairs of Franchise Pictures. And that's where they uncovered a massive fraud ring where the studio would inflate the film's budget to investors. So basically, like with Battlefield Earth, the listed budget was $75 million. But the actual cost was only $44 million. And so they would raise $75 million, and then they would pocket that 31 just for themselves before then they actually would release the movie. And they would only...
And out of that 44, too, something like 21 million went to the top billed cast,
Correct.
too.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Barry Pepper, who is the lead actor, as well as the cinematographer, talked about how basically it was John Travolta who had full creative control on set. He had his own personal chef out there for him, while cast and crew were left with their own craft services that were shitty. I mean, it was just a real bad time for everyone involved who wasn't John Travolta specifically. And so it was a grift, is my point.
Respect to grift.
And so, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Is that
this is a grift film? I mean, in
every
way.
The whole thing was we made $31 million regardless of how this movie pans out. Okay, because we've scammed people. All we have to do to not make any waves is make sure John Travolta stays happy. Because the only way this comes back on us is if the movie doesn't, in fact, get made. Or if it stalls out, then we have to then pay more. And that's less money that we can have scammed from people, basically. And so, that is the whole Franchise Pictures ordeal. I have looked up them. I've looked up the movie studio. I've read interviews with the screenwriter, as well as a couple of things with a cinematographer. And pretty much everyone is on the assumption that if this film had the projected $100 million budget, which is what it was going to have at Fox, but it wouldn't have given John Travolta full creative control, that it would have been a better film. But then because John Travolta basically said he wanted to call all the shots and do everything on set, that's kind of what tanked this whole movie.
It rules how like John Travolta's character in this is basically running a similar scam, like throughout it, and just laughing his head off through the whole movie.
And that's where I have to think that probably has to be like a lot of bizarre feelings on set. Like,
so wait a minute. L. Ron Hubbard, Grifter Supreme.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Okay. Franchise Pictures, Grifters.
That's
John Travolta, acolyte grifter.
That's right.
Grifter in training.
Yeah, he was trying to grift on this because he saw this as like the next big Star Wars, and legitimately in the sense that he would take a on paper pay cut of his not usual $20 million fee. Instead, it was like $15 million. But I know. Just how
generous.
So real hardship there. But he basically had full control of merchandising and syndication and everything else.
Oof.
And so so he basically earned all of post on it. And for people who are unfamiliar with that in the business, that is where a lot of movies, especially like pre 9/11, would make a lot of their budgets back, and a lot of like the actual profit will come in the home video sale market. So to basically have it worked out that then this one guy is so dominant on it is ridiculous.
I found this hilarious quote from Travolta. So basically, I think this movie only adapts the first half of L. Ron Hubbard's book. So in his dream scenario, this was a financial success, and it would get a sequel. But obviously, that wasn't going to happen. So from just I'm just reading a quote from Wikipedia here. So he was Travolta was initially like committed to a sequel, but then when asked about whether that was going to happen, after it flopped, he stated that a sequel was not planned. Quote, ultimately, the movie did $100 million when you count box office, DVD sales, video, and pay-per-view. But I don't know what kind of number it would have to do to justify filming the second part of the book, and I don't want to push any buttons in the press and stir anybody up about it right now.
Yeah, John Travolta. Because that's the basic thing, is that if it made about $100 million, let's assume that that's correct here. Okay, at the box office point, it made, I think it was $28 million. So that's, I don't know, roughly about $60 million in gross. So let's take out even 2/3 of that. That's another $20 million that goes right back into the pockets of old Johnny T. So, you know.
So he can buy more piss drinks at the alien bar.
That's what he wants. Oh, sweet, delicious piss drink.
Do the worst drunk acting I've ever seen in my life. I mean, this man has never been drunk in his entire life.
No.
Not even close.
And, you know, based on now what we actually know about John Travolta, some of the skeevy things that he's done there, I don't think he's been drunk. I think he fakes being drunk around people so then he can maybe try and pull some things on some male masseuses. So, you know.
Yeah, everyone knows that when you get drunk, you just start like just spilling your drink everywhere, just like the liquid's just leaking out of the corner of your mouth. Like you just turn into a real wet boy.
It's such a tell on John Travolta. But let's dive into the plot here, because God, this thing is going to be quite a feature here. So, in the year 3000, Earth has been ruled for 1,000 years by the Cyclos, who are a brutal race of giant humanoid aliens. In the book, they're supposed to be about 9 feet 2 inches. Did that come across whatsoever to you?
No, not even in the fucking slightest, because you can tell that everybody's wearing either massive stilts or props of some kind. Mm-hmm. And they're purposefully either lowering the scene or raising the camera so everyone will look taller than what they are, and having like other actors go to their knees or things like that in certain scenes. And it looks like dog shit. It looks like complete and total dog shit in every way, shape, and form.
Yeah, the only way he's like 9 feet tall is if the giant forehead prosthetics were an extra 3.5 feet.
What was the design? This is another thing that pissed me off about this movie, is what was the design philosophy behind
the Star Trek
them
Klingon prop department was having a fire sale. So
evidently,
let's
because
steal
they're just like, wouldn't it be cool if they were cone heads, but they were also
had
like
hair,
Klingons?
Yeah. And also, Forrest Whitaker is black, but he's going to have white hair, the exact same as John Travolta, except his actual facial hair, which is clearly different than the other hair. But
then,
it's fine.
You could still tell John Travolta's a manlet because he's still shorter than everybody, even while wearing like the stilts and everything. Oh my god!
And also, the main character Cyclos don't have nearly the same amount of facial prosthetics that the regular Cyclos do.
Yeah, and they have hairy hands.
Yeah.
And their other fingers changes. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It switches from 5 to 6 fingers from shot to shot within a scene. You want to know why? Because the prop department couldn't decide if 5 or 6 was better, and then they didn't care to take it out or to focus on shot continuity. Solid. This was so many people just realizing what a shit show it was, but they had already signed a contract, and so they were like, let's just get this done. I
also like how their outfits are like couture trash bags.
Mm-hmm.
And they all have these weird sort of cod pieces that they wear.
No, they
were
all just packing. That's what it was.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just...
I take it back.
It's just a giant, 14-inch dick, just wrapped fireman hose style around their waist.
You actually have to reel it up and everything and tie it around the waist. And
they were
okay. All right, well, never mind then. I take that back.
They were all shopping at Mugatu's derelict clothing collection.
Oh fuck yeah! I mean, and so this is the force that was able to wipe out humanity in 9 minutes. Let's not forget, because that's what we're told later on, is that these Cyclos, they were able to defeat the entire world in 9 minutes, which I don't believe.
How?
Yeah.
They could have even said, they dropped bioweapons. I'm back, okay. Or they dropped nuclear bombs on everyone.
If there was going to be, and I'm going to invoke this now, the Zack Snyder version of the alien force was trying to terraform the Earth to make it a new home planet, this would be a plot where it could work, and it would make it slightly more believable, and that, that's why humans were in these small little designated areas. It's like where the terraforming hadn't quite happened yet. But no, it's whatever. Instead, all of the Cyclos are inside one giant dome that's just outside of Denver, Colorado, which fucking sure, man. Yeah, that's how this works, because Everyone in the human race is, again, back to the Stone Age, but we still remember how to use saddles on horses. We use slang like, this is a piece of cake, even though I don't know that they probably have ever had cake in the thousands.
Or know what cake is.
Yeah, exactly.
The whole aesthetics of the post-apocalyptic human settlements. It was immediately from the opening shots and the vibe that it was going for. It was like you literally just watched Planet of the Apes and are ripping you literally
Planet of the Apes meets Last of the Mohicans. That's what the set design was.
Using the term Forbidden Zone, and they're riding on horses, and it's everything's desert, and it was just a fucking mishmash of every fucking most obvious sci-fi post-apocalyptic trope you could imagine. Just ridiculous.
And you would think that if you have the art director who did Alien and who did Star Wars: A New Hope and was basing it off of something that was, even at its worst, an incredibly vibrant world that exists within the book, you would think that those three factors could make something unique, or at least something that hadn't been seen before.
You would think, but this little excerpt I would like to read is from Vice's kind of debrief on this film.
Oh, please.
This is a little excerpt I would like to read that I think should shed some light going forward as to everything you could possibly need to know as to why things turned out the way they did. And I quote, Christian Tessier, who played a character called Mickey, says, I remember us trying our best to make something out of something that was probably going to fail. I think it was a combination of too many worlds mixed into one. The language never was consistent. Stevens is less diplomatic. If it was a shit concept with a shit book and a shit script that should have never been made.
Yeah.
But here's where things get really good. Flynn Eagle worked as a stunt performer on the film. I thought it was going to rock the world, he says. He claims his delivery so impressed Christian that the director kept giving him more speaking parts. He also tells me about a moment when, while wearing stilts, he picked up a small makeup artist in an alleyway by his head, holding him above him and laughing a, quote, hideous laugh. Unbeknownst to him, Christian was behind him. Eagle turned to him, and Tim Curry's iconic line from 1985's Legend said, Every wolf must suffer fleas, 'tis easy enough to scratch. Scratched Christian's face with his cyclocause and cackled again. According to Eagle, Christian said, Oh my god, I think I just came in my pants. Christian did not respond to my email asking if this happened.
Jesus Christ. Oh, okay. So Robert Christian is just an insane person. I see. Okay. There we go. So George Lucas was like, no, please take this man as far away from me as humanly possible. I'm shooting everything on green screen to make sure I don't run into Christian on the street anywhere. Because he keeps on violating the fucking restraining order.
He's like,
you know what?
He took all the wrong lessons from Alien.
He did. He's like, I need to become the alien. That's what I need to do. Holy fuck!
Rocks. It's inspirational.
I mean, it's just the main character. His name is Johnny Tyler. Johnny Goodboy Tyler.
Oh my.
Sorry.
Yes.
We don't find out his name until the 45-minute mark. It's fine. It's whatever. He's part of his tribe. The tribe is all dying, and so he decides, fuck this. I'm getting out of here. Then he meets like a couple of other random people, and they hang out in an abandoned mall or something. I don't really remember necessarily or care, but they all get captured by a Cyclo. There we go.
Cyclo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then they're taken to the giant dome that exists outside of Denver. And one scene that I actually did kind of enjoy was that when they all get captured and they're all kind of thrown into the giant prison, he is kind of shown up by the prison boss that exists there. It's like, I'm going to tell you how things run. Like, I eat, then my men eat, then if there's anything left, everyone else eats, right? And then Johnny beats him up and then says, like, we're all going to eat an equal amount, equal distribution of food. I was like, wow, that's a good character scene. That scene doesn't exist in the book. That scene wasn't in the script. That scene was an idea by Barry Pepper and the people that were there shooting the scene that day. of what to do.
Wow.
Because originally he was just going to basically drown the prison boss in the food, and then they were going to star wipe. And that was going to be it.
Can I just say that I think the location at Denver is no coincidence. I think this is John Travolta trying to say that the Denver airport conspiracy is actually true.
Oh,
so
shit.
I think we need to go a little deeper. There's some there's some real hidden knowledge in the locations and setting of this.
Do you think that's like a side
start
series?
a Denver drop.
Yeah, that's what we should do. We should have like a Patreon series where it's like, well, we're now only going to be covering movies set in Denver and seeing how this relates to the Denver airport conspiracy theory.
They're riding,
build our world up from there.
They're riding around on horses. Yeah, they're like, there's that demonic horse statue. Yeah, it all fits.
Oh yeah, and then the mural that's there, right? Isn't there the mural where it's like the gas masks? Because it's been like the end of the world or poisoned or whatever. Yeah.
This is what happens when you let David
in this
Lynch
movie
design an airport, basically, is what happens.
I thought it would look swell.
It hurts me every time I hear a David Lynch interview, because he never sounds like how I envision the man who comes up with these surrealistic
He doesn't
expressions.
look like how he sounds either.
No.
Like when you see him and you think he's going to sound very like David Cronenberg, like really quiet, soft-spoken.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're just like, what the hell?
Yeah. Oh, this is like just a guy who, oh, okay, all right. This is like someone's kind of kooky uncle who is visiting from Iowa, is what it feels like most of the time. Anyway, okay. We're now finally introduced, though, to John Travolta's character, who was like the A-list build actor in this, because it was John Travolta, then Forrest Whitaker, then Barry Pepper. So we finally see him, and he's the Cyclo security chief on Earth, who, as we mentioned, is just really full of himself. And I understand that is supposed to be that as a villain, but he's also incredibly inept at his job, which I don't think
very bad.
We're supposed to super duper think entirely. Like, I think we're supposed to think like, oh, he's inept because he's overestimating or underestimating the humans. But in reality, no, like he's just incredibly bad at doing whatever he's doing. And
he's a fucking idiot. Like when they get the gold bars, I know I'm jumping ahead, but they get the gold bars out of Fort Knox in place for the gold that they were supposed to be mining. He asks like, why is it in bars? And they're just like, oh yeah, we smelted it down and made it perfect. And he's just like, okay, sure. Like that checks out. I'm not gonna look further into this.
We're able to defeat the entire world in 9 minutes, but no, we never wondered where an advanced civilization might keep its valuables and gold, for example.
They're the stupidest fucking... That's the thing, is you cannot sell this alien species as being competent in any capacity. Not even just Turl, or John Travolta's character named Turl. It's literally the entirety of them. When when they escape for the first time, and there's like, well, wait for them to find their favorite food. And then they go to eat rats, because that's all there is rats.
And they're like, oh yeah, they love rats. Oh,
they love rats. You see, they could have eaten anything, but they love rats. And it's just like, no, what? How? It's been thousands of years since you conquered that. How could you not have figured this out?
Yeah.
It's just so fucking bad.
Just to go on the fail son thing, he keeps referencing the fact that he was at the top of his academy class. Like, it isn't explained what this academy...
I think he was homeschooled.
Yeah.
I really think.
Evidently, yeah.
What was happening
The only
here.
one in the school there.
Yeah, and the reason he's on Earth is as a punishment because he had an affair with the senator's daughter. And you're like, whoa, and I looked it up. Also doesn't happen in the book. Meaning this was a John Travolta note to make sure that people knew his character fucked. It's what a gorgeous bit of hubris in this fucking movie.
Jeez, everybody's got to know I screw. Okay, I'm not a sexless freak. All right.
It's called acting, to pretend you're not a sexless freak, John Travolta.
It's like, John, you could just act that, dude. You don't need to say it out loud. I don't know about that.
Just, I want to invent a drinking game for this movie where you take a shot every time Travolta says man animal. Rat Brain. He laughs.
Yep.
He references his academy class. Like we're playing with fire here because someone could easily drink a little too much.
If you just did laughing every time someone laughs, you die. No one can survive.
It's a real problem. My one, because every time I watch a movie that's bad, I try and think, well, what would be like an easy kind of fix that would help it in a structural way? And I think one thing would have been, because in the book, the Cyclops were supposed to be basically in charge of the entire universe for like the past 100,000 years, and Earth was just like the last place that got conquered before the Cyclops fully took over, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think an updated version of that might be, you have the Cyclops maybe 80,000 years ago where they were like at the top of their game, but then since then you've just had people who have become more and more reliant on technology and less actually good in the real world or in applicable things, and becoming almost subservient to the technology on a long enough timeline of where you could have people like Turl and other Cyclops of where they're utilizing programs they know because the button they press does it, not because they know what it actually does. They don't know the inner mechanics of it. And so then when you're faced with something where it's such advanced technology that it might as well be magic, that not even the users know how it works, versus Stone Age cavemen who are rapidly trying to level up and learn and have their own unique skill sets, being put onto this battlefield Earth, so to speak, would make it a much more level playing field between the two forces.
That's an interesting way of putting it. It is, if you guys are, I don't know, I don't want to get on a tangent, but it is like very similar to like Warhammer. I know. That aspect is very similar to like Warhammer 40K though.
I'm not saying I didn't have inspirations of where I was drawing it from.
No, I'm just saying it is an interesting thing though, because it's very rarely applied, because we always think about everything existing like on a continuum in terms of science fiction stuff, where it's just like, yeah, everybody would know how this stuff works. Instead of thinking about it, just like, well, even if they have like some way of instantly communicating across galaxies, for instance, or, hundreds of thousands of galaxies, how long it could take to receive that information, how many people could possibly specialize in how to repair something, how much of this would be done just with AI and robots.
Exactly.
Too. Like, why would they even bother coming to the planet in the first place? It's very small-minded. And I think that's evidently when you're adapting a very pulpy, kind of thoughtless work of science fiction, it's pretty hard to do anything to make it memorable or interesting. Like, I think for one, if I were to just give my 2 cents about like what would be done structurally, is like make it visually interesting and not the Dutch angle comic book bullshit.
Fucking Dutch angle.
Come on.
Oh my God.
By the way, the cinematographer for this movie, in case you're wondering, is also the cinematographer that got nominated for an Academy Award for Hell or High Water in 2016. So
wow,
yeah,
huh, okay,
so,
that was a decent movie.
I know, rebounded. It's amazing what happens like when you're not part of an obvious scam of a production. Yeah, exactly. I think it just like it doesn't like, it's funny when there was like, it's gonna be the next Star Wars. It's gonna be the next Star Wars, and it's just like, the thing that worked about Star Wars is like they had these iconic things already, like a fucking lightsaber. Like, take one element of that film that's very microscopic, and it became an icon for many reasons. Just like, you could do anything to even come close to replicating that. Even if the aliens, the Cyclos, looked interesting enough, you could rest on it and be like, you see, like they're interesting visually instead of derivative. Yeah. That's the other thing, is that like Star Wars is a lot of things. For example, I'm no fan of Dexter Jetster, but the dude looks original as he sits in his 1950s diner and sits down and talks with Obi-Wan. Sure, yeah, right. Fucking great.
Yeah, instead in this, you just get like. The weapons they have, they're these very basic blasters with terrible effects. Awful dog shit.
Oh my God. They're air guns is what they are. It looks like basically if you guys have ever fired a potato cannon without a potato in it.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what it is. And so I think it was just an air duster, and when they pulled the trigger, like the compressed air came out, and that's, they were able to add like a slight warp effect to it to make it seem like, whoa. Oh, I can't believe it. It hit him.
And just like how this is supposed to fit into the sort of Scientology mythos. Is this supposed to be like the alien race that's supposed to be like what humans came from? Because isn't that like the sort of whole premise of Scientology? This is separate. Yeah.
This is separate from the Scientology lore, if we want to call it Scientology.
Okay, so it's a book by L. Ron Hubbard, but it's not in the main like mythology of that cult.
Correct.
No, right. Like you wouldn't find aspects of it in like Dianetics or something like that.
Yes.
It doesn't exist in that capacity.
Yeah, a lot of similar themes though, kind of have circled back into it. It's kind of, like this was L. Ron Hubbard's version of making a more palatable version of what Scientology is. Like, hey, if you like Battlefield Earth, you might really want to check out this other thing. It's
Do you not like the idea that psychologists and psychotherapists control your mind?
Yeah.
Well, the cyclos do that too. You might not like them either.
Oh, but but they're not called cyclos, right? Because that's a little too on the nose. Shut the fuck up. They're called cyclos because they're all scamming you the entire time.
But not me. I'm not.
No,
I'm not
that's not. But also, I need you to tell me every little bad thing you ever did, and I'm going to blackmail you into listening to me and giving me money to make sure that I don't share that information with anyone.
Yeah.
So, everyone who worked on this film kind of knew what was going on. They're like, well, this is a John Travolta power trip. We all hate this. This is miserable. Why, dear God, do we have to be a part of this movie? John Travolta has gone on record to say that Battlefield Earth is the Schindler's List of science films.
Beautiful.
That's incredible.
It even had the black and white scene and everything.
Who could ever forget the Cyclo in the little red dress?
Just if you think about saying that nowadays, right? Like, what would happen to you if you were just like Michael Bay comes on and he's like, Transformers, Gilgamesh is the Schindler's List of Transformers movies.
Yes.
And like, you'd be like, whoa, this is, hold on. It's just John Travolta just casually dropping this and being like, yeah, it's the Schindler's List of science fiction films.
That rocks.
I mean, like, objectively speaking, though, it is not. Like, that's the even more upsetting thing. It's like, you cannot be like, what if Star Wars meets Schindler's List meets sci-fi? Whoa. No, it doesn't happen. There is a genocide that happens at the end, but I think we're supposed to be rooting for that to be taking place. So
yeah, it's a reversal of maybe that's what he meant.
I think of this as a Jewish power fantasy.
It's just, no matter what you're doing here, buddy, it's not gonna
what?
work.
No, you're not going to use that quote? Oh, fine, just use the Schindler's List one instead. It's okay. The Cyclos find out that there's this vein of gold that exists that isn't on any maps anywhere. However, it is in a part of the world just out on the outskirts where there's a heavy amount of radiation. That the radiation makes the special gas that they breathe light on fire, and so they need to employ humans to go ahead and mine this gold for them, so that then they can decide to say, hey, guess what? We mined all this gold on our own. Don't we deserve bonuses? I mean, that's their plan, basically. And so they take this Johnny guy who is supposed to be a caveman up until this point, basically. And then they shoot him with this rapid learning machine that I guess might as well also be called a character development beam, because that's what happens, is that like in about a minute, he, his eyes cross and he's like, whoa, as he gets shot in the head with something. And then
he looks like he's getting a blumpkin, basically, and he's just
and he's
transcending all space and time.
And
then he's smart.
That's just what happens when you get your thetans purged.
And he becomes like the most insufferable college freshman in the world after that. He's like, well, actually, based on Euclidean geometry, the thing that we can focus on here is by measuring the three angles. And I was with the caveman on that. I was like, but how is that specifically going to help us.
I also think too that going back to like the world of this movie and its setting, I think this is the only time we even see any other like species that these silos have even come into contact with or conquered. Like there's like a 3D image of an alien or something that's just like, I'm here to help you.
Sorry. I'm apologizing for everything. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
me.
Like that's it. I'm like, what is that? What does that have to do with anything
It's
right now?
kind of weird that an entire subservient species would be around, and yet there would also be a cyclo bartender. We don't need to explain that element of the world building, or serve as a custodial staff of some kind. No,
Right.
no. Just
no need to focus on that, guys.
yeah. I mean, it really doesn't make sense. The whole world. It's fine, but yeah. So Johnny, he learns everything, and he's like, I know everything. I am Dr. Manhattan, essentially, is kind of his attitude. Because he's like, we can lead the revolution. I was taken to the Library of Congress, and I looked and I read the Declaration of Independence. And I was like, yes, that is accurate. I read the Constitution. And I was like, yes, everything in this, including the 3/5 compromise, makes sense to me in this time.
I'm built different.
Yes.
You're stealing the Declaration of Independence. I'm reading it. We are not the same.
Yeah.
He's handing out pocket declarations of independence to everyone.
Oh my God, he
He's like, you
becomes
might
a
need
libertarian, is what is happening.
You ever hear this? You ever heard of a little thing called the Constitution? I think you should.
Oh my God, a missionary before the Constitution is what he turns into. I'm gonna tell you about a little something by someone named John Hancock. What? No, it wasn't by John. His name was the biggest. Okay, so clearly he's the one who wrote it.
Well, it did inspire him to commit a genocide, so that checks out.
Yep.
Yeah, good on him. And change age of consent laws for everyone.
Yeah, he bumped it up to 13. That's the difference here. So
he's a real progressive kid.
Oh God. So he is told to basically help train a bunch of these other humans, which it doesn't make sense why he would need to train the other humans when they could just zap them with the learning beam as well to make them learn. But, fine, I guess. He has to teach these other humans how to fly around in the space shuttles.
Using Microsoft Flight Sim 8th edition.
Oh, God. I thought Crazy Frog was about to appear in the middle of the flight simulator. It was some pretty gnarly shit there that was going on. So he's told to mine the gold. Grift, as you mentioned earlier, they instead are able to break into Fort Knox because it's just left open, real casual like. Meaning, why the fuck didn't the surviving humans just decide to live in Fort Knox?
The vault was just open. They just walked right in.
Live in the vault. Come on, I understand. Oh, but there's radiation. I mean, yeah. I guess,
I will not live in the vault. I will not eat the rats.
That's a T-shirt for Battlefield Earth if I've ever seen one. Oh God. It's Johnny Tyler in one of like the 6 ridiculous wigs that he has on throughout the film. That of what's going on there. So yeah, he talks about how he's now going to try and lead the revolution. And so he's going to try to free humanity from the Cyclops using the 2 weeks that they were given to mine. And so it's great. He's a full-blown special boy, basically from this point in the movie on. Like, he is undefeatable the entire time.
Yep.
He faces no obstacles, really, along the way.
No adversity. Yeah. No one to foil his plans.
Yeah. He's the Quizark Haderach. Like his name is already like unoriginal enough to be like a Frank Herbert creation, and they even have those nose breather things from Dune. So it's like,
oh my God, yeah.
The rebreathers, yeah.
It's so stupid because I mean, like they then discover an underground abandoned U.S. military base with working aircraft, weapons, nuclear weapons, all that fun stuff that work after 1,000 years. And
of course,
in case anyone's wondering, jet fuel, which does not melt steel beams, it has a shelf life of only about 4 years. So real interesting to see how that goes.
Maybe they made their own. Maybe he got the recipe for jet fuel from the learning machine. It was just like, I could just make it.
That's right.
You know,
they don't know what our favorite food is, but they do know how to make jet fuel. It's a weird order of priorities of what they got going on.
I mean, when you know the molecular composition of water, it's only a short skip and a jump to synthesizing your own jet fuel.
God. He's like, by the way, also we should all get tattoos of the molecule for water because our bodies are 85% it. You know, isn't that a crazy stat?
Yeah, I'm so ironic and quirky. I'm putting mostly water as my Twitter bio.
Yeah, have you guys ever seen The Big Bang Theory? It's kind of funny.
Oh God. After this movie, they just take Johnny out and beat him to death with a club. Like, listen, we appreciate everything, but we also have to know this is how it's going to end. Okay, I'm so sorry. So yeah, they then use the flight simulators to train themselves in aerial combat. That is a full plot point in the Wikipedia summary, which I just wanted to point out to everyone because it sounds stupid. The cavemen then use the abandoned underground U.S. military bases flight simulators to train themselves in aerial combat. And it works because sure, fuck it, why not? Like,
how were the Cyclones able to beat all of human defenses in 9 minutes? Yet, like, their ships on Earth are just get taken down very easily by like Harrier jets. It does.
My theory is that like actually humanity, we now live on the ocean floor. But the Cyclones...
They left all the assholes above ground. Like,
all the ones who were like, no, we need to return to tradition. You will not make me live in the sea.
It's an Antrim commune.
They're like, oh yeah, no, we left all those guys on the surface.
Yeah, the return to monkey guys? Yeah, we left them, dude. They're still up above.
Holy shit, they did what? They blew up the Cyclones? I mean, good on them, but they know that's only going to end badly, right? Like, they have other armadas all throughout the galaxy. I'm not sure this is a good move. So yeah. Special Boy, I mean, it really kind of gets murky here a little bit because Turl and the Special Boy, they have several confrontations with each other about like, oh, you man animals aren't smart, and then it's like, actually they are smart, haha. And so the uprising begins, I guess. Might as well jump forward into that. What do we think?
This is really the first bit of action in the whole entire year, too. Yeah. So it's the first time anything's actually happened.
The most action, not to do a Star Wars reference here, but the most action prior to that was probably like the bar cantina scene in Episode 4 where Obi-Wan cuts a guy's arm off. Like, that same amount of action had occurred in the previous hour and a half of movie. In Battlefield Earth. It was real gnarly, at least in my opinion.
You want to buy some death sticks?
So yeah, what did we think about the human revolution here that took place?
It was...
They fucked up some windows. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Like...
Yeah, they did.
Don't you hate it when these protesters just keep on breaking windows for no apparent reason? It's so bad. Why can't they simply respect the structures that take place in there?
Yeah, they destroy the dome just because they think it's funny, you know? It's I don't know. I just it even when they're going for broke on like the action sequence, because like that's clearly where they put a lot of budget.
They already were broke. That's the problem.
Yeah, I mean they were broke. Yeah,
so.
they're going for broke, but they already were broke, so now they're like in the negative.
As John Travolta has his personal chef feeding him, and he's like, "Ah, man, we all have to cut corners. I'm using American cheese instead of."
I'm not eating a charcuterie board for lunch every day anymore. Yeah. It's only every other day.
It's
it doesn't do anything. It's poorly shot. It's poorly edited. The special effects and VFX, even for the time,
the green
are
screen
awful.
was
like
miserable.
The composite shots are nightmarishly bad. And speaking of the green screen, that not really a spoiler, but I mean that last shot with Turl is a green screen on a green screen composite shot.
Yeah, and
it looks so bad. It's like sci-fi feature films levels of bad. And most of those actually look better than this. So that's really being unfair to them.
Yeah, it looked like that Key and Peele sketch, where they're filming a music video and then like it shows the cost of the music video and how much is remaining in it. It looked like that's what was happening with the last like 6 minutes. And they're like, oh shit, we're running out of money. Oh god. Okay. Let's just use this previously already rendered blank space, slap him in there.
Right.
Sure.
The effects on the alien ships are some of the worst I've ever seen. Like this was like TV movie from like the 90s level of effects, if even. Like
the flying trash cans.
Well, I mean, and it feels weird because they can't do. I don't know. I mean, maybe I've always been hard on the Star Wars special effects, but like that came out a year after, and I would assume that spaceships aren't that difficult to render at this point.
No, they wouldn't. They weren't. They weren't. It's just that, like I said, nothing has any momentum either. Everything's just composited shots, and the VFX is done like isolation. So it looks really bad because it occupies no actual meaningful space on the film. Kind of like when people use it like really trash talk CG because it's not being like used in conjunction with practical effects, or it's not being used properly. This is the best depiction of that. Where this is what they're actually trying to say. This is when CG looks at its worst because it has no physical weight to it. It has no physical space to it. It just looks really bad. And the aesthetics are terrible. Like I said, the alien ships look like flying trash cans. There's nothing that makes you go, oh, that's really cool. I bet a kid would want a toy of that. It just
oh my
like
god, I
shit.
can't imagine any child ever going like, I want a Psylocke toy. That
right.
That true in that sense it does make it the Schindler's List of science fiction films, because I don't think any child also went like, oh cool, I want the fighting Schindler action toy. Watch him trade this record player for one child.
I mean, we mentioned Zack Snyder earlier, and I don't think we brought up yet just how gratuitous the slow-mo shots are in the action. It's if you're gonna use gratuitous slow-mo, at least make it like stylized and used to augment the action in terms of speeding up and slowing down. But this
scene.
is just like guys crashing through windows for like a minute long, and everything is just slow the whole time. It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
And it's recycled shots in some cases too, like recycled slow-mo, but from another camera angle. No, thank you. Please stop. I don't need
Magnifique.
This. But we finally get the final act of the human revolution, which is them sending an atomic bomb to the Cyclo homeworld. Or rather, sending a person there with a nuclear bomb into the Cyclo homeworld, who blows everything up and it detonates the entire homeworld. So congratulations, you wiped out an entire planet full of people. Yay for the good guys, I suppose. What do you call it when like an underdog force finally is able to utilize a weapon and you have a suicidal bomber be the one to try and take it out, to wipe out a large imperialist force? I'm not sure what it is, but those are always the good guys.
I don't know either. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. As far as we know, I mean, this film is telling us that at least.
Yeah.
That's what I'm supposed to infer from the movie.
Yeah, this comes down.
This film is brought to you by the brave fighters of the Mujahideen.
I know.
Yeah,
This is what we need. We need to show the new era of Taliban fighters. You know, the ones who are like 16 years old because we've killed all of their parents. We need to show them Battlefield Earth and be like, see, we are sympathetic to your cause.
Yeah, this movie is very pro jihad for sure.
Yeah. Oh God. I wonder if that's why they went with like their rip-off Native American aesthetic for the Stone Age tribes. Because if they went with like desert folks, I think it would be even more on the nose, a little bit. You know, of like, oh boy, what are we doing here? What movie are we making right now?
Right.
So yeah, big explosion. Our special boy wins. John Travolta's in prison, which is where he should be anyway for making this
Lock
movie.
him up. That's the shit.
Battlefield Earth ain't going away.
Then in a surprise, at least for me, Forrest Whitaker is like, actually, I'm joining the humans now. I'm gonna teach them everything I know, which seems really stupid because it seems like all they need from him is show me how to work that brain knowledge beam thing, and we're just gonna do that to as many people as we possibly fucking can, and then we're gonna colonize Denver, Colorado, and that's what we're gonna do. I don't know. That's what it seemed like for me.
And refer to ourselves as the dead variants from now on.
Yeah, because the rest of the world, we got to reconstitute humanity. It only can happen in America. It's the new world.
Yes.
The rest of the planet doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
No, not even like Kansas exists. It's only Colorado. This is a Colorado supremacist film.
Planet Colorado.
Yeah. I don't know, man. But yeah, so that's kind of what happens. The credits then roll. There's no song even really. It's just even more fucking bullshit score. And the movie is thankfully over. Dear God, the movie's finally over. Some quick information for y'all. Did y'all read about what happens in the book about what would have been in the proposed sequel for this movie?
No. No.
It is quite literally, with the Psylocks now having been effectively destroyed, you find out that the Psylocks actually had a brain inhibitor chip in them by another class, and that's why they were acting like sociopathic assholes the whole time. Meaning, humanity just really, really genocided the entire planet. They didn't need to fully. And so, regardless, the power vacuum that then came as a result of it, it's all bureaucracy, and there's an intergalactic banking federation.
Oh, here we go. Let's go. Now we're cooking with gas.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
So,
not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Banker cabal that is putting chips in a certain class of people through maybe an injection. God. I don't like.
Jeez, it's pretty wild and out there. I'm not sure we're ready for that level of sci-fi to take place.
We need to make this sequel. Let's fucking go.
Yeah,
start writing the script right now.
Let's call up John Travolta. One last ride, motherfucker. It could exist, but needless to say,
it could.
We have come to the point now where we get to figure out, is this garbage or is this not?
Oh my goodness.
Real up for debate issue here. But Brian, what are your thoughts?
I think Battlefield Earth is absolute garbage.
Yes.
It's absolute garbage. 110% garbage. Put it in the garbage bin. Let's never look back. Let this be Garbage In, Garbage Out's final word on it, and therefore history will never have to discuss this film ever again.
I was worried you were going to say a final episode, and I was like, whoa.
We're so traumatized by having to watch and rewatch this thing that we just shuttered the podcast. We can't
go back.
Yeah.
It's just going to be me holding a foil jacket over myself for the next week. Just like, I don't want to watch it again. Oh, God, it's so bad.
No more.
What about you, Griff?
This is on a whole, it's on a whole nother level of garbage. This is radioactive waste. We need to bury this deep in the Yucca Mountains and just prevent it from ever anyone being exposed to this ever again. Because you can enjoy fun bad movies for what they are and get into that vibe, but this is unenjoyable on every conceivable level. No redeeming qualities whatsoever, besides just the ridiculous backstory to how it even like came into being. Like there's more like that's the only like fun aspect of this thing. It's just the ridiculous grifting machinations from Travolta and his production studio and the Scientology connection. Like that's the only fun to be had with this thing. So launch this piece of shit into space.
Have that warning code on it from like the nuclear waste disposal that's like, there is no honor here. Do not open this.
I don't think I could have possibly said it better myself. I kind of, in a weird way, would like to see someone do like a $8 million miniseries reboot of this, where you just make it full pulp and on a super small budget, and you kind of show like it's amazing what happens when you don't have John Travolta calling all the creative shots on this,
right?
Because it could be fun in its own weird kind of way. I'm not saying it necessarily would be good.
Yeah, like as a Flash Gordon kind of thing, I think it would have been kind of fun and stupid, and you could make it cool, you know?
Exactly. Like Flash Gordon meets Planet of the Apes set in, like a weird Star Trek, The Next Generation kind of aesthetic going on. I think that's something that would be appealing for a lot of people. And so, like, if we're going to be rebooting good things, why not reboot the misguided things instead?
Or make it like a campy, like, political satire about the alien bureaucratic machinations.
Okay, you know what? You got me. You got me. We need to do that. From the director of Trial of the Chicago 7 comes
Aaron Sorkin's Battlefield Earth 2.
It's all about international baking cabals. Congrats.
QAnon does need a rebrand. I think there's something there.
Let's make it happen. I would be so stoked if that's what they ended up latching onto instead. The secret
Battlefield
sequel.
Earth, yeah.
It'd be beautiful. But that's gonna be an episode. So Brian, thank you so much for coming on. Tell people, where can they find you?
Thank you for having me.
What have you got going on?
Yeah, you can find the podcast that I co-host at The Illegal Pod, all one word, on Twitter. You can find me from my last name, Roesler, ROESLER _ Brian, on Twitter as well, if you want to see my inane shit posts. What do I have going on? As always, I'm writing for Treble, so if you guys are interested in music and checking out what's going on in the world of music, check out Treble Zine, and if you want to see my writings there, I always repost them. And as for that, we just finished a pretty huge deep dive into the director Sam Peckinpah on The Illegal Screen, and then we're going to be talking about basketball again next episode, but I don't remember what we're doing, so look for that whenever it comes out, whatever it is.
Beautiful. And scheduling is so hard. It's so hard to keep track of everything.
Yeah.
Grift, what about you? What's happening in the shop?
So the latest collab, we got a Labor Day merch dropped a couple shirts, parody of the Teamsters Union. We got Calvin from Calvin and Hobbes pissing hazard sign, so a couple irreverent shirts for your celebration of working class heroes.
Yes.
And then 9/11's just around the corner, so you already know I got some stuff for that.
We need to just with white knuckles be anticipating what all is going to be happening. With that. Should be a fun time. Let's see. For the actual podcast itself, go ahead and follow us on Twitter and Letterboxd at Gigo Podcast. Leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. Follow us on Spotify. All that fun stuff. Y'all know exactly what to do. I'm going to log off and start trying to figure out how we can make this sequel happen. Because, if the first one...
let's go to Kickstarter right
exactly,
now. Let's just do
Our
it.
goal should be scamming $31 million. I think that's a feasible goal.
We can do that. We could do that.
Exactly.
Easily.
But again, like you said, only a charcuterie board every other day. We'll pace ourselves.
Ben Shapiro's Daily Wire media production company. They've been throwing a lot of money at projects, so I think that's a prime target for this one.
There we go. All right, Battlefield Earth 2, Gina Carano as Turl. Hell yes.
No, Gina Carano as the senator's daughter.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And now it comes full circle.
Beautiful. All right, let's get out of here. Love you all. Bye.
Peace.